Thank you for tuning in to Local SEO today. Don't forget to subscribe and share this episode. Joining me today is Tom Antion. Tom has never had a job. He's an internet multimillionaire, guy next door, and founder of the only licensed dedicated internet marketing school in the world. He's the subject of Hollywood documentary, The American Entrepreneur, premiering later this year. Thanks for joining me, Tom.
Oh, I'm thrilled. I love to talk to my brethren up in Canada.
Yeah, well, thanks a lot. I know right now there's a lot going on in the world, and in particular where you're residing and living.
Oh, no, there's nothing going on in the United States right now.
Yeah, there's hardly any headlines that piques anyone's interest in the world. So, but outside of that, I did want to get into learning a little bit about yourself. If you don't mind sharing with the audience members, who you are, what you do, how did you get started, and a little bit more about your expertise.
Okay, yeah, well, I've never had a job. That's hence the name of my podcast is called Screw the Commute. And when you look at my resume, you kind of think, man, that's BS. How could somebody do all of the stuff this guy's done? And it's basically, if you're not in a car driving and commuting to work, making somebody else rich for a couple hours a day, you can live like 2 or 3 lives. So I've been doing that since before I graduated college. I actually owned 5 apartment buildings and a hotel. All right, so starting with nothing. So I've been an entrepreneur all my life, and various things. And that time it was real estate. Then it went to, I was a freelance charter pilot for a while. I owned a nightclub, and I've always bragged about working out of my home. I actually lived above the nightclub. So technically, oh, wow, I lived in a nightclub with my house.
That's awesome.
Then when I got out of that business, I was in gunfights and knife fights and bikers trying to kill me. So when I got out of that business, I said, whatever I do now is going to be fun for me and fun for everybody else. So I don't know if you're old enough to remember Candid Camera, but it was a show where they would pull practical jokes on people long before Punk'd and Jackass and those kind of shows. And so I started a practical joke company where we custom designed practical jokes. And I did 4,000 of them in and around Washington, D.C., got worldwide publicity for it. It kicked me off into a professional speaking career. And this is back in the late 80s, early 90s. And then the commercial internet came along in 1994. And at the time, I was a working speaker going all around the world speaking. And I was selling stuff at the time, cassette tapes, all right, which nobody even knows what they are nowadays. It was hard enough to sell them across the street, let alone around the world. So when the commercial internet came around in 1994, I said, I'm going to figure this out. I mean, you mean I can sell around the world from my basement computer? Yeah, I'm going to figure this out. So 2 years I went working on it, trying to figure it out, still going around the world speaking and trying to figure it out. Didn't make a nickel from 94 to 96. And then I got good training from a guy named Corey Rudel. He was kind of the 30-year-old grandfather of internet marketing in the United States. Pretty much around the world, he was well known. And unfortunately, he died in a tragic car accident. But he was my first teacher. And as soon as I got good training, I started making money. It wasn't like it is now, but it was $50 a week, $100 a week, $500, $1,000. Now it's not uncommon, $30,000 weeks. And by 4 years later, I hit multimillionaire status, which is around like 20 years ago. But I'm still just the same guy. And I came from a small town. There's only 500 people in my hometown still to this day. And we lived in the suburbs. So I was just came from farmland sticks. But yes, that's the way I act now, but done very, very well and helped a lot of other people along the way.
That's amazing. So I want to get into learning a little bit about trying to uncover what made you decide during college to kind of work on your own and doing your own thing. Did you come from some money to start getting into real estate? How did you think differently? Did you
Sure.
associate with others? Did you join other events or have mentors around you? So, you know what I mean? Like a lot of listeners, they're probably side hustling or they're starting off in
Hmm.
their own entrepreneurial journey. What would you say to them? Like, what made you do what you do?
Well, I started out. I was the baby of 6 boys, and like I said, we lived out in no man's land, so I was by myself all the time. And I saw my dad, who was an entrepreneur. My dad came from Syria on a cattle boat in the early 1900s, and he put the first electric light bulb in Carnegie, Pennsylvania, outside of Pittsburgh. And he was head of household by 13 years old, had his own electrical contracting firm at 13 years old. And so that's all I saw as I was growing up, is my dad's an entrepreneur. So I kind of saw that. And I actually sold my first used car when I was 15 years old, and I didn't even have a learner's permit to drive. So I was surrounded by that the whole time. And then I went to college on a football scholarship. So I went to a major college in the U.S. top 20 school as a all-state football player. And so I had time on my hands. I did go to class. I wasn't, I took business classes on the side. It was all paid for. So that was great. So I was reading a book by William Nickerson and it's still available as a used book somewhere. It's called How to Turn $1,000 into $1 million in Real Estate. And I thought, man, I could do that. I remember sitting at a place called Sunnyside in Morgantown, West Virginia, on the side of the street, reading this book. I could do that. And my 5 brothers are telling me, "You're crazy. Well, you don't have it. How are you going to do real estate? You're crazy. You're out of your mind." And I'm thinking, I don't even have a couch to repossess. What are they going to get if I mess up? So this was, I didn't even have $1,000. So I made a no money down deal. I went and found an old attorney. See, in those days, they would rent by the person in houses converted into multiplex like apartment buildings. So I found an old lawyer, wanted to retire. He sold me the house, no money down. I just made him payments, so he didn't have to maintain it, do anything. I went to Kmart. I don't know if you used to have Kmarts in Canada. I bought a $10 circular saw, and at the time at our football stadium, they were taking the seats that were old oak seats and replacing them with plastic. I grabbed them all up and I ripped them down the middle and made 2x4s out of them. And I built on 2 extra rooms on this apartment building, which was another $250 a month. So then I said, heck, I'll do this again. I found another guy had a 4-plex, and I did that. And I had another guy had a single family home, and I did that same thing. It was no money down deals. And then I was actually renting because I was paying less in rent than I was charging everybody else that lived in my place. So a guy named Frank Beafor, I remember this vividly, came over one day and he says, "Hey, Tom, I want to talk to you." And I'm thinking, oh, what did we do, And every time he would come over to the house to fix something, I would say, "Hey, Frank, I'll help you put those gutters on, but you teach me what you're doing, okay?" Okay. So after a whole semester of this, he came to me and he said, "Tom, I've been renting apartments in this town for 25 years. He said, not once, ever, has a kid that I rented to, it was all college students, asked to help me, let alone want to learn anything. He says, I have a hotel and I want to retire and move to Florida and I want you to have it. And he said, if you can come up with the first mortgage, I'll take back the second mortgage." I don't know if you know any real estate stuff. And you won't have any money down payment, and then you run it and just pay me off with the hotel income. I did it. I only had to go 1 day a week. It had a manager. I made about $65,000 a year on it. Well, and this is in the 70s. Okay. And ended up making $400,000 or $500,000 when I sold it. so that's amazing. The lesson here, John, for all your listeners is give before you get. See, in today's atmosphere, I hate to say it, but a lot of the young people don't have a big work ethic and a little bit entitled. And you might be in that age group, but it's not you. But I mean, that's kind of the reputation. So you don't have to do a lot to impress guys like me to give you a break. And in fact, one of the people I want to tell you about is one of my students. His name was Ilya Posen. He just sold Pluto.tv. I don't know if you ever heard of that. It's like a Hulu, Netflix kind of thing. Are you sitting down?
I'm standing. Yeah.
Oh, well, $340 million. He sold it to Viacom. And that was his third startup after he left me. So he started a first company, sold it for $1.5 million. Second was $6 million. That one was $340 million. So I just get thrilled about, people that I've inspired to do this stuff. So anyway, that's how I got. The idea is give before you get. Impress people that are further ahead than you, that you're a go-getter, you're reliable, you're hardworking, and they'll give you breaks because most of your competitors are a bunch of bums, and so you don't have to do a lot to really stand above the crowd.
That's amazing. That's great advice too, right? Like growing up these days, everyone's always chasing, right? And they, like you mentioned, entitled. So they see what they want to see and hear what they want to hear. But back in our days, like I'm 40, so my generation.
Yeah, you don't look
so my parents and everyone else, we come from hard work. We come from people, at 9 years old, I was out there working to support my family and help out, right?
Oh, like, good.
We all come from that same kind of mindset. But in today's day and age, depending on where you live and what kind of status you're in, right? The upbringing is a little bit different as well, right? So if you just put in some time, you actually care and want to learn, actually want to volunteer and really want to help others, people see the good in others, right? And if they see that there's opportunity for you to actually want to do good in life or have a good future, there are breaks out there, right? But everyone only sees the largest companies like Amazon's and Facebook's and Google's, and everyone wants to be like Mark Zuckerberg or Jeff Bezos, right? But they don't see that there's so many other opportunities that will make you ultra successful, right? Like you don't need to be billionaire status. Even a couple 100,000 here or there is sufficient for your livelihood, right?
Well, yeah. And I mean, trust me, people don't tackle me for my autograph walking down the street. I'm the guy next door, basically. But in some places they do because I'm well known in the speaking arena. But the thing is you can make enormous amounts of money online. You're doing online stuff. And do a lot of good for people, help a lot of people, live the life you want, lifestyle business, but if you only look at the big prizes and then don't take the steps to get there, that's called a dreamer. Okay. You want to be a doer, not a dreamer.
Exactly. And I'm all about someone that takes action, right? Someone that actually, everything is all in the mind, right? Everyone has all these great ideas and they throw like, I want to do this. Change that verbiage to, I will do this. I am doing it. And yes, you're going to fail many times. And it's very depressing sometimes and frustrating. But at least you're taking action. You're doing something that you're learning from because there's many more failures than successes, right? And people get upset. They get frustrated. They get disappointed. And just don't let it get to you, right? It's hard to say, but
here's the thing. Right? Here's the thing, and why I'm really pleased to hear of your upbringing, because I'm not a parent, so it's easy for me to give parenting advice. so I think parents make it too easy on the kids, and so when the kids get to the point where there's the least bit of pressure on them, they fold like an accordion. They got to go on Zantac or whatever. I don't know. Zantac might be stomach. I don't know. Whatever this thing is that for their craziness, they go join gangs, they join alcohol, drugs, because they never had the ability to cope with any pressures since they were little. So I implore parents to make your kid get a job. I don't care how rich you are. Make your kid work for something and realize the value and be with regular people and know how to serve people and have a nice, pleasing personality. That's another thing. Pleasing personality can get you very far, but people don't, they don't learn that nowadays. because both parents are working, and the school's certainly not going to teach you how to have a pleasing personality.
I totally agree, right? So my son's 5, and for me, it's all about making sure that he lives as normal of a life, what I feel is normal, which is, yes, serving others, but learning the true values that, as a human, you need, right? Respect, someone that actually appreciates everything, be grateful for what you have as opposed to what you don't have, earn everything. And then of course the educational piece, right? Just make sure that he is well-rounded with the true values of what you feel is what you need, right, in life, as opposed to all the stuff that you buy, right? You don't need the newest gadgets and newest shoes and all this stuff. It's like being around, surrounding yourself with the right kind of mindset, right? And parents, again, it depends on their situation. I don't know where they're coming from or what is going on in their life, right? But if you actually be present, you're there for your children, it makes a big difference in how the kid is actually raised, right? And a lot of people forget that they're chasing money mainly, right? And they forget what's really important and what's valuable in someone's life.
Yeah, there's a really telling song about that by Harry Chapin called "The Cat's in the Cradle," and it's a song about the little boy wants to be like his dad, and the dad's always working, doesn't have time to play with him. I'll play with you later. And then when the dad gets older and the kid grows up and leaves, then the kid is doing the same thing to his dad. Oh, I don't have time to see you, Dad. I got my own kids. I got this, that, and it was like, really told a story.
Yeah, and then you're going to regret it, right? And you're going to be like, look, I spent all these years to have a better future for the children. That's what his thinking process was. But he didn't even spend any time with the child. And therefore, you're no longer that father figure or mother figure, right? So you're going to regret it for the rest of your life. And things change and situations change, and therefore it's reversed, because now it's like, it's hard, right? But let's go back into your business and your career.
Go listen to that song when you get a chance.
I definitely will.
Yeah.
So growing up, was there like a dream job that you always wanted to aspire to have?
No. I never wanted to have a job. You're cussing at me now.
or like, what did you want to be? Because like you mentioned, you were a pilot, you did this, you did that. What were they all in your bucket?
No, well, flying was a little bit after I got older. I was probably in high school before I even thought about flying. But my whole goal in life was to avoid working for somebody else and finding a way to do it. And I mean, and it's funny because the old saying is, an entrepreneurial work 80 hours a week to get out of working 40 hours for somebody else. So my whole goal was that I'm going to find a way that I can make money, earn a living, and not have to go to a regular job. That was just not in my DNA. And my whole life I have done that. And like I said, doing crazy stuff. I'll bet you've never had a guest on your show that went to Santa school.
No.
I went to Santa school because I had my entertainment company. And so I was getting calls for all these Santa deliveries. And I said, I don't know how to be Santa. So I went to Santa school and then did Santa deliveries.
Amazing.
But
that's fun, right? It sounds like you're living life.
Exactly. I got so many stories of little kids on my lap. I mean, I remember I don't want to brag, John, on your show. All right. But Tom Antion, was the Santa Claus for National Geographic magazine in Washington, D.C. 3 years in a row.
Amazing.
All right. Amazing. Now, I know, I guarantee you haven't had any big shot guests like that. But this little, D.C., everybody's a lawyer, right? So this little girl sitting on my lap, she must have been, 4 years old. I said, well, you got to go to bed early, so and be a good girl, so Santa will bring you something for Christmas. And she's looked at me and she said, is that a federal law? So
That's awesome.
Her dad's a lawyer, so she's thinking there must be a law that I have to comply with. So there wasn't any job I ever wanted, ever. In fact, I mean, I get a little guff on it now because I've done a lot of speaking in corporations and stuff in the old days. And I would say, I don't want to work in a corporation where you have to have a 2-week committee meeting to go to the bathroom. So, I do more before breakfast than most executives do their whole career, and I don't want to be held back and have to do this and that. And another rule that I live by is I only deal with people I like. So I'm never, I'm forced to deal with Verizon, which I hate, for my cell phone, but I'm not every day. I don't have to deal with people in a company. I don't have to kiss butt on people so I get a raise, none of that stuff is, that it just drags you down.
That's awesome. So you're in control of your life.
Job. What's that?
And then you're in control, right? And that's how you dictate, what goes on, who you associate with, and what brings happiness to you. So another question I had is, growing up, what did success really mean? Or what did you want to achieve? Like, what was your kind of goal?
Well, as a young person, I was a super, super fatty, in my maybe 8, 9, 10 years old. And I joined midget football, they called it. So that was, I don't know, little kids, but I was 6 feet, 220 pounds at 12 years old.
Wow.
And the other kids were 60 pounds. In fact, this is how in the state of Pennsylvania, they made the weight limit rule after me, because I was, so far bigger than these little kids that were in midget football. But it got me a good work ethic of, and there's no giving out trophies just for showing up in those days. You won or you lost. If you lost, you shook hands, you wiped yourself off, and you figure, okay, I have to work harder to do better. Wasn't everybody got a trophy? So that was causing me to say, wow, I'm not a fatty anymore. People are respecting me. So I worked harder and harder, ended up being 4th in the state in wrestling and heavyweight division, and all-state football player. And it got me a scholarship to school, to college, top 20 college. But the thing was, I wasn't the dumb jock. I mean, we were surrounded by people with IQs half their shoe size. I mean, it was really bad. There was 31 people in my freshman picture, and only 6 of us graduated. Right? So they would take anybody that was big and strong and fast. So I went to class, got good grades, took business classes while I was hoping to be a pro football player. But only 5% of people, only 5% of high school was good enough to get a college scholarship. 5% of college is only good enough to go pro. I wasn't there. I could tell by my senior year I wasn't good enough. And I had already owned these apartment buildings, just bought a hotel. And it's just like, all right, well, that's the end. That's the end of that. And then I got so bored because I was just picking up my rent checks from the post office and had nothing to do. I went and got my pilot's license and became a commercial pilot. And then I got bored with that. And because you're kind of like a high-class chauffeur is all you are as a pilot. And then I bought the nightclub, and then I got in all the gunfights and knife fights and bikers trying to kill me and all that stuff. And so it just went on and on and on, moving one thing to the other. But it did teach me I won't buy a biker bar anymore and clean it up.
That's awesome. So how did you get into the speaking gig? Because that's what you do currently, right?
Yeah.
So can you delve a little bit deeper on that?
Yeah. Well, I've been doing that since 1991, and the way it came about is when I was doing the practical joke business. Like I said, it was worldwide publicity. I learned comic timing. I did over 1,000 of the jobs myself. So I was writing professional grade humor all the time for the other people and for myself. But I was always sitting there thinking there's something bigger here for me, something bigger. I didn't know if it was a movie or TV show or something like that. And I was in a bookstore, and I moved out of the way to let a lady go by on a stroller, pushing a stroller, and I hit my head on a book. And it was called Speak and Grow Rich. and it was about becoming a professional speaker. And so I took it home and looked at that. I said, this is perfect for me. I'm already funny. I got tons of business experience. And that's how I got into speaking. And then that was I was president of the Speakers Association in Washington, D.C., and going around the world speaking like crazy. And then that's when the internet came along. And I had no inch, right now I'm considered Mr. Internet Guru, right? Teaching internet stuff. So I was just trying to learn the internet to sell my own stuff. And this is another point for your folks. When you get so good at something, people will start to beg you to teach them how to do what you're doing. And so that was, it was the same thing with speaking. I was an entertainer. I got really good at it and I started speaking. People started begging me to teach them speaking. So I wrote a book on that, have a big course that's made millions of dollars on being a professional speaker. And then to sell that course, I had to study internet. And so I studied that like crazy, got really good at it. People started begging me to teach that to them. And that's how I got into the internet marketing. I'm in the retreat center right now. It's this big mansion that, and I got a TV studio next door, and people come from all over the world to study here and all that stuff. So it wasn't, a lot of internet people just, they say, oh, you're just making money telling people how to make money. Yes, that's true. However, I learned how to make money selling public speaking stuff, which everybody hates. Nobody likes public speaking. So I got rich doing that, and then I taught other people. So it's just trying to be excellent is the key. So the first lesson was give before you get. The second is be excellent at what you do. And then not only can you make money doing it, but you can make money teaching it to others.
That's amazing. Yeah. So just to give you a perspective, I started, first off, I was reading the TED Talks book a couple of years ago, and that's how I had interest in doing more public speaking. So I never really did speaking, but I was always in sales, right? Mm-hmm. And I went out there and I put a couple events on like Meetup and Eventbrite or whatever on local events for me to practice speaking. And now it's just a habit, right? It's just like anything. You need to get better. You're going to make mistakes many, many times, but the only way to improve is to go out and do something. So that's what I did, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm not the best by any means, just like podcasting. I just enjoy it. Everything has to be passionate, right? You got to enjoy the whole flow of making mistakes, learning, pivoting, getting better, changing it up, getting better, making more mistakes. Like that whole habit. A lot of business owners or entrepreneurs forget that, yes, you got to enjoy it. Yes, it has to make some money or else why do it? But you got to really have fun, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the only change I would make there is that just like you and just like me, we kind of make money by shortening the curve for other people.
Exactly.
All right. Yes. So yeah, I mean, now is all the stuff that I do on the internet, which is lots of stuff. I'm not a local SEO guy. I totally divorced myself from that because that's a specialized field. I was taught by the best of the best, Michael Campbell, probably before you're 40, but almost before you were born, on SEO. And I was great at it, but local, no, I don't want anything to do with it. In fact, I talk local people into making yourself global by selling digital products about what you do locally. So you do both. But anyway, they could figure it out for themselves if they were willing to sit down for every night for hours and hours and test and blow a lot of money, but they could just go pay you, right? See, so what true. We do is to help shorten people's learning curves rather than, for instance, with my speakers, I don't want to see person bomb 15 times when I could have, coached them to not bomb even once, So that's how we get paid, and that's our value in the world, is to help other people do what we can do. So that's the only change I make. Yeah, you shorten your time.
Find an expert.
Yeah, if they're doing it for a hobby and just for fun, who cares? Yeah, good. Have a good time at it. But if you're doing it as a profession, you need to up your game faster than, sooner than later, because you're trying to put food on the table for your family. And if you bomb, the word spreads fast in the speaking community. Don't hire this guy because he sucks.
Of course.
Yeah.
No, it totally makes sense, right? So some of the mistakes, would you be able to share to some of the audience members? Like, what kind of mistakes did you have to overcome, or what did you have as mistakes?
I was thinking about that. The biggest mistake that I made, I believe, it's one of those things that was a mistake that I'm still proud of, the results of it. So this school that you mentioned in my introduction, I did it originally because there's so many scammers on the internet. I wanted to set myself apart. So I had background checks and financial checks, criminal checks, all this stuff to get the license. 3 years it took. So I set myself apart, and then found out I hate the red tape of a school. So in the time I did doing that, I could have made a couple of millionaires in the meantime. So I'm proud of the school. Like I said, it's the only one that exists. It's distance learning, so people anywhere in the world can go to it. But I just hate the bureaucracy. In fact, here's an example. It's a distance learning school, right? I have to have a physical library at my office for students that will never set foot in the building. Right? That kind of stuff. I mean, it just drives me crazy. But, like I said, it did the job. It set me apart from nobody's gone through the scrutiny that I have that teaches internet stuff. I mean, we got convicted felons selling stuff, some big names you've probably heard of, and people got their finances frozen for fraud, and big names you've heard of. So I've set myself apart from all of that.
And that's amazing to hear, because that's what again, to be the best, you need to focus on differentiating yourself, right? Mm-hmm. And making sure that you are a level up than everyone else. So it sounds like you think differently as an entrepreneur as well, because there's so much clutter out there in the world, right? In the marketplace.
Every day it gets worse, yeah.
And you don't know who to trust. There's so much going on in everyone's life as well. And you're bombarded by so much information, true or false or whatever it may be. And you don't even know who to trust, what to consume, right? So how do you differentiate yourself from all the other noise out there?
Well, there's a couple of things I wanted to tell you about. First was about how some of these mistakes and trouble that you've gotten yourself into can be, it's like looking for the silver lining. So the nightclub, first of all, I've been in martial arts since I was a kid, okay? But I had to step it up big time at the nightclub. I was in gunfights, knife fights. I had bikers trying to kill me, over 100 violent confrontations. Lucky to get out alive, pretty much. But I really stepped it up. And so, and I kept it kind of under hat, the skills that I have, until a lot of these active shooters were showing up in the United States and around the world. I said, I got to come out and tell people about how to protect themselves. So I made a website called Brutal Self-Defense. And then I had a seminar about it. It's $500 a person. And then we have a 14-hour course online. So I turned that negative that I barely lived through into a positive. So, and also I teach people to make their hobbies tax deductible. So I'm a tennis nut, and I have the dubious distinction of being the largest person ever to create and star in a tennis training video. It's called Fatso Tennis. So it's tennis for overweight and hopelessly out of shape. So what it does is I sell a tennis DVD, and then it makes my balls and my ball machine and my rackets and everything tax deductible. So it's just, you can turn all kinds of stuff. I don't remember what your original question was, but I want you to know about how you can turn things into again, make money and do things that are enjoyable to you and save taxes too. Because this would even work in Canada, because a business can take off deductions when they're legitimately making money.
That's amazing. The way you think is a lot different than a lot of entrepreneurs or people that are working 9 to 5, right? as business owners or entrepreneurs, we think differently, we act differently,
Yeah.
and we look at opportunities. We're optimistic kind of people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we have to differentiate ourselves. So it's
great that was
to
the
hear.
question. Yeah, that was the question you asked me. Okay, so here's the thing.
Yeah.
So about 20 years ago, I turned the internet marketing training world on its head. And the guys at my level were charging $50,000 or $100,000 up front to teach this to other small business owners. And I knew a lot of these guys. You give them $50,000, they're hiding out in Mexico and they'll never help you. They'll just run off the money. So I said, that's not right. That's too risky for small business owners. And so I charged an entry fee, and then I charged a percentage of profits that was capped at $50,000. So for me to get my $50,000, you had to net $200,000. People love this. They knew I would not disappear on them. 1,700 students later, more than 1,700 now. It's still going strong. So that's one thing. I tied myself to their success. So that's one thing. Second thing is all my training is one-on-one. Nobody at my level will even talk to you, let alone teach you anything. So myself and my entire staff will tutor you one-on-one if you're in my mentor program. So that's another thing that's unique. Another thing is you get an immersion weekend where you actually live in this mansion in Virginia Beach for the weekend with a small group, 4 or 5 people. Nobody else will do that. They might come over and brag about their house in the daytime and then send you to a hotel. You actually live here for an immersion weekend. Then you get a scholarship to my school. And one guy was in my mentor program. He had spent $80,000 on his daughter's crappy education. All they did was teach her to protest or something. I don't know. And she had a crappy job. And so he joined a mentor program, gifted the scholarship to his daughter. After 1 month, she was making $1,000 a month on the side. 2 months, she was making $3,000. After 4 months in the school, she was making $6,000 a month as a side hustle and hadn't even graduated yet. So nobody on earth has any of those elements that they give. So pretty much I dare people to bring a program that matches all the things mine do. Plus the video studio. We have a TV studio next door. I was at a seminar where they offered to shoot a marketing video for you for $700 was the seminar price. $1,500 was their regular price. We have people come here, shoot 10, 20, 30 of them as part of their deal. My guy edits them, puts the graphics on, sends them all these marketing videos just as part of the deal. So like I said, nobody on earth has ever come to me. I dare them to give me exactly what you do and exactly what I do, and then they go crawl under a rock somewhere.
That's awesome. No, and that's important, right? Because you want to know
service. It's service.
Service, personalization, custom.
Yeah.
And you're really driven on their results as well, right? Because
but they know I'm not going to disappear because I'm not going to get my money. I wrote a book. It's funny. It's called The One Sentence Business Plan. I have like 19 books out or so. It's called The One Sentence Business Plan, which is kind of funny when you got to write a 60, 80 page ebook to tell them how to write one sentence, right? But my one sentence business plan, I believe that if every business on earth followed this idea, they would be way better off. They wouldn't have to pay $100,000 to a consultant to make up their business plan. So here it is. I create quality products that somebody actually wants at a reasonable price, and I service them after the sale. What else is there?
It's straightforward.
Exactly.
Ideally, that's what every business should be focused on.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. That's why I hate big corporations. They'd spend a year working on their mission statement and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then it didn't really mean anything because the bank says, we believe in great customer service. Well, you didn't tell the teller that today, did you? You forgot to tell her about the mission statement.
Yeah. That's
so it's a blast doing this stuff. I mean, it's a life. It's the true lifestyle business. You do what you want. You deal with who you want. Your income potential is unlimited. It's up to you how hard you want to work or how little you want to work. So it's been the best thing ever out of my whole entrepreneurial career.
That's amazing, man. And I love your enthusiasm, your passion. It sounds like you're enjoying life. And that's the most important thing of being an entrepreneur, right? Why would you wake up early, or why would you continue doing what you're doing if you're miserable, or if you're not even wanting to help others, or associate with others, right? Like, it sounds like you're having so much fun.
And so many interesting things happen to me. If I could tell you a story about, people come to me sometimes, they will say, what's the fastest way for me to make money? And this might surprise you. I'm supposed to be Mr. Internet big shot. I tell them eBay. I said, eBay, you could, tomorrow, you could have money coming in and clean your basement at the same time. I was a power seller for a long time on eBay, just as a side hustle. And I'm very frugal. I buy stuff off of buying apps, like Facebook Marketplace or OfferUp, because I'm frugal. I grew up in a small town. Dad was very frugal. And so I bought this tool off of this guy. So I go to pick it up, and I show up at his house, beautiful $500,000 motorhome out front, beautiful home. He shows up at the door dressed nicely. He invites me in to go down to his shop to buy this tool in his basement. Great. Okay, I go down the basement, and John, everything up to this point was normal. Okay. But I'm following him into his shop, and I look over, and from the ceiling is hundreds. I'm talking hundreds of ladies' brasiers. And so I'm like, oh my God, this guy kills people in his basement and hangs their underwear. So I don't say anything, and I'm talking to him, and he's real nice, and we're talking about how our dads taught us to use tools and everything. I buy the tool. We're leaving the basement. I said, I got to ask you, man, what's all these bras over here? He says, oh man, my daughter sells them on eBay. She gets used bras at thrift stores. She knows the sizes, and she goes to all the thrift stores. She made $200,000 last year selling used bras. All right, so there's hundreds of millions of buyers there. And that's just one slice of the opportunities that are out there if you're willing to hustle a little bit.
And that's the thing. Side hustling, it doesn't have to be the glamorous jobs that you see and you watch on TV, right? It's the smaller things that anyone can do, right? Mm-hmm. And it's paying the bills, and it's also the ones that actually has the most potential because no one else is willing to do it. Right?
Yeah, and it's more than paying the bills. She's making more than an average doctor. Yeah,
exactly.
With no liability insurance.
It's the same thing with like trades, right? A lot of people don't want to do trades work, right? However, if you're willing to do the hard work, the grind, people make way more than doctors, right? Or lawyers.
Yeah, I saw a cartoon in the New Yorker magazine. It was a guy sitting at an employment office, and the employment guy was saying, we have all kinds of PhDs and MBAs. We need a good body and fender man, just to work on cars. So and it's true. Like I said, nowadays people are running up enormous debt at regular colleges, learning how to protest, and then no skills whatsoever, and then competing for jobs at Starbucks. You got Starbucks up there, right?
Yeah, baristas.
Yeah, you're not a third world country. Who am I thinking of?
Yeah.
No, I was going to say there's a comedian, Kathleen Madigan. She was talking about Canada. She says, "Yeah, Canada's pretty cool. You kind of forget it's up there. It's kind of like the attic to the USA. You forget it's up there, but there's a lot of cool stuff up there."
Yeah, so we live in Toronto, a big city.
Yeah, I've been there.
So yeah, I've been. It has everything, right? So for us, it's like any big city in the world we have, right? And people forget, like, everyone wants to work in this big glamorous office tower, drive a nice car, but then you forget that you got to take 2 hours to get to work. Right?
Exactly.
You forget that you're stressed out of your mind because you're dictated by big, higher senior management. Like, that's the rat race, right? And once you become an entrepreneur,
and one swipe of the pen, you're on unemployment. I don't know what they call it up there.
Pink slip, yeah.
Yeah.
Totally agree. So another few questions I want to ask you.
Sure.
You know, right now, what drives you? What really motivates you? What's your, purpose in life? Because it seems like you've hit so many of your check marks of things that you wanted to achieve in life.
Well, here's the thing. It has to do with goal setting. I tell people I've never met a goal that I've ever had, ever. Why? Because as soon as I get anywhere near it, another one appears to me past it. So it's always a Japanese principle called Kaizen, continuous improvement. And you asked me what drives me? You see that poster behind me with the baby? All right, so have you ever heard of a singer named Johnny Cash?
Yes.
Okay, Johnny Cash is a country singer. He had a famous song called "A Boy Named Sue," and it was about an old drunk cowboy who named his boy Sue because the cowboy figured he wouldn't be around to raise him, and he wanted to make him tough, make him fight and scrap, and because his name was Sue, a girl's name. So my dad was 50 when he had me, and so he was thinking he wouldn't be around. So he told me that when I was just a baby learning how to crawl, he would put a pillow in front of me and put my toys, and you see that ball there, on the other side to teach me how to overcome obstacles. Do it to your 5-year-old for the next couple of years. See what he or she turns out to be. So he said he wanted to make me learn how to overcome obstacles. And to this day, I'm totally unstoppable. Now, I won't cheat anybody or step on them to get where I'm going. But if you tell me I can't do something, this is another lesson for your folks, you better get out of the way as I blow by you doing it. And the thing is John, when somebody tells you you can't do something, doesn't mean anything. What it means is they can't do it. So you just have to ignore people like that. But if parents would do this with their kids, teach them to overcome obstacles, they'd have a child that's just totally going to take the world on and do great things, no matter what they are. But if you just, put a bottle in their mouth and rock them to sleep every day, they're not going to do crap.
Well, that's parenting, right? And it's hard. The upbringing, and people feel like they've worked hard all their lives, and they feel, wow, I don't want my child to go through what I had to go through.
Mistake.
If you don't, they're going to be raised as, someone that's privileged or someone that expects everything to be given to them, right?
Or they're crying with social, safe spaces and all that stuff,
Exactly. Yeah. So there's a fine line, and I see it all day long. I see it with my friends, children. I see it because I come from a different situation. Mm-hmm. Parents didn't have much, similar to your situation. Yeah. And we spent a lot of time with just trying to uncover and being curious and making mistakes and working all the time, hard work, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of kids nowadays don't even feel it. They need to feel the pain, right?
Yes,
Or if they don't, they're gonna live and grow up like, someone that is entitled, and that's what you never want to raise as children. Right?
Yeah, I would say they need to feel the pressure as a youth so that they don't feel the pain as an adult. How about that? Yeah, so you got to keep putting pressure. Like he put pressure on me before I could even walk. Didn't hurt me. I wasn't going to get hurt or anything. I wasn't in any danger. But look at me now. And you say what drives you? He's sitting there talking to you, not me. I mean, he molded me. I mean, he was blue collar. He was an electrician. Besides entrepreneur, and I channel him. I go into Home Depot. And I start feeling him. Yes, I go there sometimes just to feel his presence again. So yeah. I mean, and I'm not a parent. I'm not a parent, but I do see the people that come to apply for a job, and I'm like, oh my God, how do you get out of bed? How do you even cross the street by yourself? I mean, some of these people.
That's hilarious. So aside from business, it seems like you have this not good community. You have a lot of books. You have this striving business, a lot of speaking engagements, and all these things. That's your business, right? Like, is your sibling still around? Like, what do you do in terms of
several of
family?
them. I'm no spring chicken here. I'm 65. So I say I'm 65 going on 12.
Wow, you look amazing though.
Thanks. But yeah, so I'm not. Most of them are all gone. Like, pretty much gone. But my life. When people say, "Well, that's your business," well, some people say, "Okay, well, you're a workaholic." I say, no, that's my winning pace. That's what I love to get up every day and do. And they don't understand it. I get that. But the thing is they don't also see that, all right, I stayed up all night for nothing watching the election last night. They don't see me playing with 2 German Shepherd dogs, which I turned into a business called Protection Dogs Elite. So they don't see with tennis. They don't see with, there's not many guns and, but we do a lot of gun stuff around here. They don't see me practicing martial arts. So it's just all this stuff is part of the deal of my makeup.
That's amazing.
And I built that. See, that's what I'm saying. That's what I try to impress on people. You can make the decision to build this kind of life for yourself. Or you can take the easy way out and drive to work back and forth and then collapse and watch Netflix all night until you do it again tomorrow and make somebody else rich.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's up to you.
Yeah. And exactly, right? As an entrepreneur, you dictate how the outcome's going to be, right? And if you have that foresight, if you understand opportunities, if you go out there, do something, there's always going to be things to come, right? There's going to be positives and negatives, but hopefully more positives. And I love your spirit. I love your passion.
Thank you.
I love that you're, enjoying and so happy, right? At 65, I want to be like you, where, you enjoy every moment. You're so engaged, right? And you love just every aspect of business, right?
Well, and I love
fun.
I don't have kids per se, but all these 1,700 people that I've helped, not counting tens of thousands in audiences. I actually had a lady come up to me the other day, and she's crying. She's like blubbering, crying. I mean, really crying. And I'm thinking, oh my God, what did I do?
Is she okay?
I said, well, you're not pregnant, right? No, what? I had no idea. She could barely talk. She said that she had seen me speak 15 years ago, went home and told her husband about it, and they started their own business. I didn't help her at all, other than she just saw me speak. It changed their whole family's life. They put their kids through college. They're still running the business. And I had no idea. And there's probably lots of people like that out there, but she just came up to me and was like crying. And so that kind of stuff keeps you fired up. You don't, not all of them are like that. Some of them don't do crap. But the thing is that one person, and there's been many like that have come up to me that I never even knew. But that kind of keeps me fired up because I know what I'm doing is positive, helping people, and I'm enjoying it myself.
And that's so important, right? Like inspiring others. And the thing is, you don't expect it, but as long as you're doing something, right? You're making a difference in someone else's life. And those people, are grateful. So
yeah. And plus the ones that can't even tell me. Because a lot of people, I used to say, or this one guy I used to speak for would say, we have to score for people that can't score for themselves. In other words, help people lesser than you. But I just changed it that we have to score for animals. So I've rescued enormous amounts of animals. I got this video where this lady thought she was a very selfless lady, and her husband retired. They rescued these animals. They had 17 dogs living in their house and rescued them. And so I got one of the rescue dogs and just loved it for years. And so I did a fundraiser for him. It was my birthday, and I thought, what? I don't need anything. What the heck should I do? So I threw a fundraiser where I did a seminar where people paid $100, $500, or whatever, and then she got all the money, but I then tutored him or something. I don't remember. No, she didn't know anything about this, right? So I did this all on my own. And so I called her up and said, hey, I want to stop by, see the dogs, and I got a little donation for you. And so $24,700 I gave her. That she had never seen more than like $20 donation ever. She almost had a heart attack. But I got these dogs, their eyes got operated on, all their vet bills paid, and that there's nothing that I could possibly do on this earth that's gonna be as impactful as that. I mean, I could do it for homeless people and everything, but there's everybody's got their thing, so animals are so helpless, and they're only given love to you. So that's kind of my thing.
That's awesome, man. I love your spirit. Thank you so much for being on the show. So can you tell some of the listeners how they can get a hold of you or check you out in terms of online?
So they should check the podcast out at screwthecommute.com. And there's a resource page there too. I have tons of products and services and all kinds of freebies and webinars and everything you can think of. And then the mentor program I told you about is at greatinternetmarketingtraining.com. greatinternetmarketingtraining.com. I'm very accessible. I give my cell phone number out. That's another thing nobody else will do. I give my cell phone number out. And I'll be glad to talk to them about anything they need.
That's awesome. Well, thanks a lot so much for so much insight today and so much valuable, tidbits of, so many years. And this must have been like 40 or 50 years of your life.
I've been in formal business 44 years.
Amazing.
And really, since I was 10 years old, I was hustling and doing all kinds of stuff. So 55 years. Yeah.
And you're still going strong, and you still love it.
Still going strong, yeah. I still get more done than anybody your age.
That's amazing. I love it, Tom. Well, thanks again for being on the show, and have a great rest of your day.
My pleasure.